Ellie, I know that you and I are supposed to be getting married and all that, but my parents started thinking about your education, and they feel that something is very off about it now. Can you please explain to them something that'll get them to stop talking about it? My family is a family of doctors, right? Honestly, this is pretty embarrassing, being with an uneducated woman.
What? What are you going on about, Lance? Also, I went to a trade school after high school, right? I'm not embarrassed by anything about my education. And even if you are, I'm not going to do anything to change that now. And think that your parents should be smart enough to understand things aren't just about one's education. How about you just explain to them that I'm happy with the path I've chosen, and that should be enough. And by the way, I don't think my education has anything to do with you and I getting married.
Well, to my family and I, education plays a huge part in marriage. Do you understand what it means to be a family of doctors? That doesn't just mean that my parents are doctors, but that my whole entire family has something to do with the medical system. I work in one of their clinics right now, meaning that my family is very powerful, if I'm to be honest.
I've heard that story from you countless times now, Lance. I do think that your family is very amazing. But your family and mine are both very close to one another, and that's why we were able to meet one another in the first place, right? I totally understand all of that, and I really hope that you will too. So could you just forget about wanting me to explain to your parents my education, because they should already know about it?
So this is what they mean by uneducated. The timing of this has nothing to do with our marriage and families. My family's idea of you and the rest of your family is everything here. Which means you'd better start explaining things to them in a good way so that I'm not having to feel ashamed of myself.
Even if you're not happy with where I went to school, it's not like I'm able to change any of that now. So what do you want me to do here?
Can't you just go to them and say that that was all a lie or something? Tell them you graduated from a university. That's all I'm asking you to do in front of my parents.
And do you think that it's really a good idea for me to be lying to people who will very soon become my family? How about you just forget about what they've been saying and focus on our life together? Our education has nothing to do with what comes next. And if you can't seem to get your mind off it, then why didn't you choose to be with someone of a higher education in the first place?
Good point. There is some truth behind that.
If you're agreeing with that, I guess I have nothing left to say to you. Anyhow, there's no way for me to change my education for you now. And actually, you're not a doctor or anything, Lance. So do you really think there's much point to you constantly flaunting the fact that the rest of your family is?
Huh? I'm working inside a clinic right now, aren't I? And it's one of the many clinics that my family runs. What do you mean I can't flaunt that fact? We all know that that's something worth flaunting in front of everyone.
I'm not going to say anything else then, so let's just leave this be. We can talk about this some other time, perhaps when we next meet in person. I would really like for you to be telling your parents that something as superficial as education does not matter when it comes to love. But so far it doesn't seem you believe in what I'm saying to you either.
As for your marriage, everything seems to be going pretty well. Will you be all right, Ellie? I've been a little bit worried that you're feeling as though you're being forced to do things with their family now, so I'm wanting to make sure that's not really the case. If you don't want to have anything to do with them, just let me know, okay?
Uncle Victor, thank you for texting me tonight. Don't worry about the marriage. I'm not all that concerned about anything. However, there is this one thing that sort of caught my attention about Lance and his family. I just hope that deep down they are all really good people still. Either way, I've been waiting to get married myself for some time now, so this will be good for me.
Is that right? Well, as long as you're still feeling okay about everything. If something does come up, though, please let me know. After hearing about someone like Lance, I kind of feel bad that you've been set up to become his wife. He doesn't seem like the kind of man a woman can really count on. And since I'm like your parent, I need to make sure you end up with someone you're 100% okay with.
Saying something like that to me really warms my heart. Thank you, Uncle Victor. But you really don't have to be all that worried about me since I'm going into my 30s now and have been making things work in my favor thus far. And if I wasn't in love with Lance, then I'd never be able to marry him. So please don't feel as though I'm having to marry him for your sake or anything, okay? But of course, you do have one thing right about the guy. He does not feel like the kind of man I'm going to be able to rely on a whole lot when it comes to him being my husband.
How about the rest of his family? I'm pretty sure that most of his family is well aware of the fact that I'm in charge of one of the major hospitals in this state and that I'm not to be trifled with. But I don't think that Lance and his parents know anything about me. They haven't been making any false claims about you or anything recently.
So far, there hasn't really been anything like that. The only thing that's been a bit strange regarding them lately is their attachment to things like people's education. And it doesn't sound like they're a big fan of mine.
Do you want me to tell them to keep their mouths shut about all of that for you?
You don't have to go telling them that. You'll just be making things even more crazy and complex by doing that, and they would become a pain for you to have to deal with later on. So you can relax and stop worrying about all of it, please.
I don't mind having to go and do things like that for you, though, so if there really is some trouble with his parents, you let me know, and I'll handle them.
You've always been worried about me, huh? But thank you. I really appreciate it, Uncle Victor. Now you start looking forward to my wedding, okay? I don't want my uncle to be crying the whole time he's there, all right?
About today's wedding. It's canceled.
Excuse me? Lance, what are you talking about? Today's wedding is canceled. What does that mean?
You still don't fully get it, do ya? I had never planned on giving a wedding to everyone today in the first place.
What?
Who do you think would want to get married to a high school graduate like you? The talks about me getting married to you ended a long time ago, actually. Within my family, of course. Yet you never knew about that and prepared for a wedding that was never going to be taking place today? Uncool.
I'm not sure what all you're wanting me to say, but of course I prepared for my wedding today. And right now the wedding is being prepared for as all the guests should be arriving here soon. Why would you say something like that when there's no way someone in their right mind would cancel their wedding now?
Did you really think that as a high school graduate you'd be able to get married to someone like me?
What? I had assumed that you and I both agreed on getting married to one another, and that's why we're having this wedding today. That's why your family has been talking with me about the plans for our wedding and what we plan to do after getting married, right?
At first, right? But I am a part of a family of doctors. In my family, almost everyone is a doctor currently or has been one before. You really thought that a high school graduate like yourself could join us? Absolutely not happening. Were you not able to tell that from the start after my parents' reaction to you? Normally, everyone should have been able to take the hint, but perhaps because you never went to college or university, you don't know how to?
So in other words, you think that it's okay to treat another person like this all because they never went to college? Then that really means you're not coming to the wedding today. And your parents 100% agree with this?
Of course they are, since they were the ones that told me to cancel the wedding today.
Your parents said that? And you didn't even have anything to say about that, instead just complying with what they asked blindly?
You only graduated from high school and are a simple office worker, while all of my family are doctors, right? I shouldn't have to think of whose words to believe when the answer is already obvious.
You never really loved me from the start then, did you? The whole time you were going on about how you wanted to marry me and everything, yet now you're wanting this wedding to be canceled on the day of? You're an asshole, Lance. You should have told me your true feelings long before all of this happened. Then you would have been saving the both of us from having to deal with what comes next.
Be upset about this all you want. But in reality, you and I were never meant for one another, right? I understood that from the start, but you for some reason never did, and that's on you.
Did you forget that our families introduced us to one another at the start with the hopes that we'd get married? How do you plan to explain what you're doing now to the rest of them?
I'm sure that when my aunt and uncle were introducing me to you, they never knew about how you were nothing more than a high school graduate. They might have thought you were a stellar woman at first, but my parents and I have come to learn that that's false. I'm sure that when my parents explain to the rest of my family the truth, they'll all agree with the choices I've made.
So that's what you think? I guess no matter what I have to say now, you're not going to change your mind about canceling the wedding today.
You think I'd ever want to marry you? Did you really think that as a high school graduate, you'd be able to marry into a family of doctors? Don't make me laugh too hard now. I knew that you uneducated women were no match for a family of doctors. I'm calling off our engagement to one another so you can go ahead and cover the costs of that wedding yourself. Allow me to be the one to call things off for you. What? Who is this? I'm Ellie's uncle. And she's been allowing me to read through all the things you've been talking about this morning. In other words, the conclusion I've come to is that you want to cancel this wedding and no longer marry my niece? You want to end your relationship with my niece entirely? I can't believe her uncle would have to start texting me. I really have no idea what kind of a relationship you have with my aunt and uncle, but this family is filled with doctors. I don't care that you guys want me to get married to someone now, but you can't be serious asking me to marry a high school graduate like her. I think you guys should have been thinking about how well she would fit into my family first before introducing her to me. I suppose you're right. Right? I'm never wrong about anything. I should have introduced Ellie to you after I had gotten to know what kind of man you really were. Huh? Now what is that supposed to mean, old man? I've finally come to understand that it would be a waste watching my beautiful niece be married off to some trash like you. This marriage is no more, and you can go tell your aunt and uncle that I'm no longer willing to deal with them anymore. What do you mean you no longer want to deal with them? If you really have such an important relationship to them, then go tell them that yourself. Lance, this has all become your responsibility now. Which means that you should be the one telling them the news, correct? Or are you, of all people, not aware of that? Also, make sure to tell your parents as well. Tell them that if they want to care so much about the education of others like it means everything to their life, then they should be taking better care of their clinics. Excuse me? And does any of what my parents do have anything to do with you? Well, not anymore now that I've learned what kind of people you are. Therefore, from now on, I don't want you ever talking to my niece again. Do you understand?
What do you want? I'm very busy at the moment, so make it quick.
You are not busy enough to be avoiding me! Answer your phone right now! I have something very important to talk with you about.
Well, I don't care to listen to any of that. So we're done talking now. Goodbye.
Hold the hell on, please! When I went and told my aunt about the fact that you and I would no longer be getting married, she flipped and started to dig into me badly. And ever since then, she's been saying things that make zero sense to me. That's why I need to talk with you and confirm a few things.
What do you mean she's been saying things that make zero sense to you? Are you talking about things like how my uncle happens to run the hospital that supervises all of your family's clinics around the city?
What? Then that means it's really true?
The reason you and I first met and that we wanted to get married is because of the relations my family had with yours. And had your parents and you just went and thought things through a bit more before making such rash decisions, then you wouldn't be in trouble with your aunt and uncle right now, and neither would your parents be. Well, it's not really worth saying all of that to you now, since everything is a thing of the past and can no longer be changed. You and that family of doctors you have are all over with now.
What? What do you mean we're over with now? What are you trying to say to me? What about this means my family is done with? I never thought that your uncle would turn out to be the owner of that large hospital which runs all of the clinics in this town. I had no clue about any of that at the beginning.
And that's very obvious based on the way you and your parents treated me. And I never wanted you to know anything about my uncle.
Huh?
Originally, I wanted things to take a bit more time before there were talks about you and I getting married. I wanted for you and your family to understand who my uncle was and who I am to my uncle before making any serious commitments. But before all of that, I wanted to also see how things played out between you and I. So I told my uncle and your aunt and uncle to hold off for a bit on telling you guys about their relations to one another. Yet before I could learn what kind of people you all really were, you asked for my hand in marriage and I just went along with it, thinking you guys were all right with the woman I am. And yet, just when I started to think things were becoming a bit strange between you and I, you told me on the day of to cancel the wedding. I'm really happy I never had to get married to you after figuring out the truth behind your parents and you. At first, I was kind of thinking being married to an idiot would be kind of fun, but now when I think back on it, our marriage would have been nothing but fighting and fake love.
So then that means from the start you knew about how becoming a part of my family would mean that your uncle would be more open to helping support my family's clinics financially?
I knew all about that. And don't make it sound like my uncle and his hospital has had nothing to do with your family's clinics, as his hospital was the one that helped start all of your family's clinics. So no, this marriage wasn't just about having my uncle help you guys out financially. He is obligated to help keep your clinics open since they're all part of his hospital in a way.
Wait, is that right?
I'm sure someone like you would never understand something like that, but not all of us are good at understanding basic structures. But didn't your parents at least know about all of this going on? Also, I think when my uncle was getting ready to start helping your parents' clinic out with the resources he had, they all got together and talked about how it would begin after our wedding. Which means your parents most definitely knew about that, right? I guess it doesn't matter now, though, since you guys are already done for.
Hold on a second. I didn't even know about how their clinic was starting to have financial troubles. So what you're telling me is that the reason for my parents' clinic bringing in more money lately is because of the marriage we were supposed to have?
The correct way of looking at it would be to say that it was because of my uncle. But that help's not coming anymore, so you and your family have the best of luck figuring something out there. All of that has nothing to do with me now.
Wait, that's not good at all for us. Do you think that you might be able to say something to your uncle about all of this? Can't you tell him that my parents and I had no clue me not marrying you would lead to all of this? And actually, we can go have that wedding now if you'd like to. Right now, my aunt is freaking pissed at me, and if nothing happens to change the fate of my parents' clinic soon, all of our family will become a laughingstock and I'll be royally screwed. It was only going to be a matter of time before my parents learned the truth about everything, so let's just go ahead and have that wedding now. Do you think we could take all of that conversation we had this morning and call it one massive joke or something?
Huh? What do you think you're talking about now? I would never even think about marrying you again while I still walk this earth.
What? Why not?
What all of you just said to me today, and the things you and your parents were saying, you think I can just forget about all of that so easily and fall back in love with you? Are you an idiot? No, wait, you're mentally handicapped, aren't you? You guys made it very clear that you loved to make fun of me for my education. But I'm not just some high school graduate, because I also went to a very expensive and well-renowned trade school. I never went to college or anything, but I was on a campus learning all sorts of things about my trade. And because of that, I am making hundreds of thousands more than a hospital worker like you makes a year.
Is that right? Huh? Do specialists like you really make that much money?
You always loved to act like you were this big shot that everyone had to listen to, Lance. Even though you've never been a nurse or a doctor and only work in a hospital because of your parents. All of you know that I may be just some office worker to you, but I'm working in the world of IT, and in that world there is more money than in the medical world. And when I was planning on getting married to you, I never had any cares about my husband making more than me or not. Honestly, I felt that things would have been just fine between you and I before you went and started to belittle me. But now you know the truth about me, and I hope that's changed your mind in some ways.
I didn't know that a high school graduate could be making that kind of money.
You're still calling me a high school graduate? After everything I just explained to you there? I guess you are mentally handicapped, like was said before, so let me make this simple. Me no high school graduate. Me trade school graduate. There. Hopefully that clears things up for you now. And if not, then perhaps your problem has less to do with your brain and more to do with your eyes and ears. Which in that case, I can't really help you much. I'm not going to be getting married to you anymore, so none of your problems are going to bother me any. The only ones who will have to start worrying now will be you and your family of doctors you brag about so much. Good luck helping your family try and keep all their clinics afloat, okay? No, wait. You won't have anything to do with all of that, actually. All you've ever been is a paper pusher for that hospital, right?
Are you making fun of me right now? Me, who comes from a family of doctors?
I think you shouldn't be saying that until you yourself have become a doctor, all right? I'm not trying to pick on the doctors and nurses that go out and save lives every day. like your family members do. But when it comes to you, the only thing you're ever doing is stapling papers together for the hospital and getting coffee for your boss, right? I don't believe that just because there are some doctors in your family that you yourself can be seen as powerful as they all are.
Don't make fun of the healthcare system!
I just said I'm not. Oh wait, you can't understand that. Oh well. I don't have the time or energy to put every single thing I say into dumbass for you today, so you're better off just getting yourself an interpreter or something. Maybe one of your parents. I really do wonder why I ever thought it would be all right getting married to you. What a mystery that is, and I hope one day I can come to understand it. Anywho, it seems that your family's clinic is going to be in some hot water here soon. But just try your best to support your parents and family through it.
What? So, what about you and I getting married? I could have the wedding tomorrow if you're all right with that. It's already too late now to have the wedding today since it was canceled, but my parents are both wanting us to get married as soon as possible, and well, I've finally come to realize that if it's for the sake of my family, I'm willing to marry a high school graduate like you.
Wait, what? We're not getting married, buddy.
What? What do you mean?
Are you sure you're okay there? I've been telling you this whole time I have no reason to marry you anymore, and I never will even think about it again. Tell me, why would someone like myself ever want to be married to you? How about instead of thinking about marrying me now, you think about all the horrible things you've said to me recently and then think about how they hurt my feelings?
Wait, so this really means you're not going to marry me?
I really thought I was doing a good job of making that clear to you.
Then what's going to happen to my parents' clinic? What about the financial support your uncle was going to give us?
And like I was saying, the moment you called our marriage off, my uncle called those talks off. Lance, is there a problem right now?
No. All there are is problems now. What are you talking about, Ellie? I thought that based on the way this conversation was going, you were getting ready to make up with me and get back to wanting to marry me, right? I already apologized for having today's wedding canceled last minute, right?
Wait, so that's what your problem is? You're just delusional on a scale that most mental health workers have never seen before. If that's the case, then there really is no helping you here, Lance. Because what you're thinking happened has not been happening this whole time. You never apologized to me. And even if you had, it wouldn't change the way I think of you now.
I'm sorry. I'll come and apologize on my hands and knees if I have to. If you guys don't help us, my parents will lose their clinic. And what about the rest of my family? They might end up losing theirs as well.
I'm not really interested in listening to all of your self-centered talk anymore. I think that both yourself and your parents all suffer from something that has not yet been diagnosed before. Perhaps the three of you could come to my uncle's hospital and see what his professionals think. Also, what was that about you sticking me up on the day of our wedding and then asking for me to pay for it all? I'm not paying for a wedding you canceled. You and your family pay for that yourselves. And if you don't, I'll make sure to get the money from you in court. And don't forget about the settlement I plan to get from you for ruining the wedding and my chance of marriage. Your family and the clinics they all run will have a very difficult road ahead of them soon. Just try your best, okay?
Wait a second, what money are you talking about? You're lying, right? I don't have the money to pay for that wedding and a settlement.
Then go ask your parents who are doctors to pay for you. Well, because of you, they're all about to lose all of that money, so I'm not too sure they'll want to give you any money. Anyway, good luck to you and that paper-pushing job you have. I hope someday you can live up to the expectations of your family and become a doctor or something. Although I don't think anyone will accept a doctor with the mental struggles you've been having. Thank you for opening my eyes to the kind of people you all are before we tied the knot. Uncle Victor, today was a real struggle, and I'm very sorry about that.
What are you talking about? This is not something you should be apologizing to me for. I am disappointed in that family. Every single one of them is a disgrace. Since they all seem to think they can just judge others based on their education, I'll show them that this world doesn't care about things like that. Ellie, I'm so sorry for introducing you to a trashy kid like that.
This was not your fault, Uncle Victor. This happened because of my inability to realize the truth about them. And I was the one who agreed to marrying Lance. But the fact that you stepped in the end there to get upset at all of them made me really happy. Actually, it felt like my dad had come back to protect me for a bit there.
When he had passed away, I felt like I had some very big shoes to step into taking care of you. I'm happy to hear that parts of me have resembled him. And even now, I hope that I continue to be like a good father figure. Let's start to forget about what all happened this time. I'll make sure to put an end to that family so that you never have to think about them again.
I'm so happy you feel that way. Thank you so much, Uncle Victor. I'm going to work on forgetting what happened here and looking forward to my future again. And from now on, I'll make sure to talk with you about anything I have going on and ask for your help when needed.
I hope you do. And when you do come to me for help, or to talk, I'll make sure I'm even more helpful then.
Thank you for always worrying about me, Uncle Victor. After that, without the help of my uncle and his hospital's money, Lance's parents' clinic started to fall into bankruptcy. And my uncle ended up taking the clinic from them outright with little to no money given to them. My uncle then made sure to do some major restructuring of the clinic and fired Lance from his hospital and both of his parents from that clinic in the process. After that happened, I started to get more and more texts from Lance as well as calls, but I made sure to ignore every single one of them. I've already found someone new in my life, and we're on track to becoming a very serious couple. One that I feel a lot more comfortable with, and one where we'll be wanting to get married in the next year or two. I think when I do get married, I'll be able to completely forget about what happened between Lance and I, and will no longer have to think about the importance of my educational background either. Honestly, I have to say that I'm thankful for what Lance did in the end there by canceling the wedding last minute. Because I was so close to being married to one of the most mentally unwell people around. I would have hated to have to deal with all of his wild episodes had I really become his wife. Thank you for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought of the story. We look forward to seeing you at the next story.